Mine's worse than yours right now. Maybe I better comb it.
Okay, we are now live on the air. We're 5 minutes before the broadcast is scheduled to start, but we wanted to let anybody that joined in early know that things are moving forward. So what you're seeing is a live signal from Nepal. We're not going to start serious chatting until a little bit later.
Yeah, everybody come in. I think here in the middle.
Sure, in the middle.
Yeah. One at a time, maybe. We'll see. I think Sonam will come first, actually. Sonam's first. But you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, watching the broadcast, it's Uliana and her team from Nepal. Uliana's just going to move the laptop around to show us the lodge that they're broadcasting from.
The technology stuff, showing all the wires and batteries.
This is what we're attached to with the phone right now for charging.
That is a very big square box that you've got there. That's the battery that is
Big
powering
battery,
it.
yeah.
That's very good. So about 4 minutes before we're actually going to start the real broadcast, and I'm going to obviously start off, Uli, by asking you to introduce your team and telling us where you are.
All right, so my name is Uliana. This is Sonam.
No, this is just wait until 10 o'clock our time.
Oh, sorry.
Just me giving you a bit of an alert that we're going to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, looking online on YouTube, we're in a sort of pre-show here. My name's Geoff Haines-Stiles. Welcome to Live from Nepal. We're going to start the real broadcast in about 3 minutes, but just wanted to have people that were joining in early know that this is actually going to happen. And, of course, the great situation is that we will be live from Nepal. We've already had one internet dropout that lasted for about 10 minutes. We hope that that won't happen again. But if it does, you'll see this notice. Please stand by, and we will try and reconnect. Uliana, Patrick, and their team are doing a great job of keeping things going that end. But it is, after all, long-distance communication, and anything can happen. But those of you who are watching this little pre-show, hopefully you've also gone to the crowdinthecloud.org website. There you can see many of the stills and videos that Uliana has sent back. Her own website is Science in the Wild, and that has great material too. And very soon you're going to see some underwater video coming back from the lakes. And Uliana will be telling you all about why that's so important. So, thanks for joining us. About 2 minutes before we start the real event. And we'll let you know about the geography of where it's coming from, the altitude, which is pretty important, and the science behind the Sherpa Science initiative. If you're watching on YouTube, you're actually a few seconds behind. That's not because anybody's going to be saying any expletives that have to be deleted. It's just the way in which the YouTube feed follows after the real one. You can see Uli is amused by that.
It's one of us, too.
So 1 minute to the beginning of the actual broadcast.
It's going to be live on YouTube. On YouTube right now. PBS YouTube. Don't touch it.
Don't watch it. It takes more bandwidth.
Yeah. No, you can watch yourself.
Shut off all the phones right now. I've got mine turned off.
Yeah. So if you can help with, we want you to talk about some stuff. Well, if you can help translate for him, we can talk a little bit about what he's been learning. That would help. You can.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you comfortable with that? If you need.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Live from Nepal, the Sherpa Science Initiative. I'm Geoff Haines-Stiles, the writer-producer of The Crowd in the Cloud. You're going to have a chance to interact live with Uliana and her team of Sherpas and scientists in Nepal. you'll have a chance to tweet to them. This is the address, the hashtag CrowdCloudLive, hashtag CrowdCloudLive for your ability to send questions to Uliana. And now over to Uliana. Tell us where you are, Uli, what the day is, what the time of day is, and the community that you're broadcasting from. And it looks as if the signal has frozen there for a moment. As we said, they're going to try and connect back again. So this is me saying, please stand by. Nepal is trying to reconnect. This has happened once before today. In the meantime, until they get back, I'm going to broadcast a video that was sent just today by Uliana and her team.
Can you hear us?
Actually, I'm not going to do that because Uliana is back. Yes, I can hear you, Uliana. Over to you. Where are you? What's the altitude and who's with you?
My name is Uliana. We are in the Nepalese Himalaya right now at roughly 15,400 feet or 4,700 meters. And this is a shout out to say hello to everyone who's watching, especially those night owls down there in Australia. Thank you for staying awake for us. So yeah, I wanted to introduce my team. We have Sonam Sherpa here. We have Patrick, we have Ben, we have Lakpa Nuru Sherpa and Gelu Sherpa. We're all going to be hopping on and chatting about what we're doing up here.
That's great. So, Uliana, why don't you tell us what the purpose of the expedition is? What are you up to?
Yeah, so what we're doing up here is we're working on the Nongzumpa Glacier. So this is one of Nepal's largest and longest, at 18 kilometers. And at the terminus, the very end of this glacier, you have a bunch of lakes that are forming. Now you have some beautiful blue-colored ones like this that are pretty stable, and then you have ones that are muddier, and they are changing really, really quickly. They're surrounded by ice walls. And so we have a platform of robots that we're using in order to study how quickly they're growing, expanding, and deepening. And while we're doing that, we're training Sherpas how to pilot these things. We're having a lot of fun in the process.
So just a technical point, we had got some video and some stills prepared to show during this event. We found that whenever we did that, we broke the internet connection. So this is going to be strictly two-way chat between the US and Nepal. So go to crowdandcloud.org, go to Science in a While, and you'll see all the things that Uliana is talking about. So, Uliana, what is changing in the Himalaya, and how are the lakes revealing what's changing?
Yeah, so in particular on the Nongzumpa Glacier, these lakes have been growing since the mid-'80s. And it's kind of a cyclical growth. Sometimes they grow really quickly and expand and deepen, and sometimes they'll drain and get smaller in surface area. But in recent times, since I've been coming up here since 2011, we've been monitoring and tracking these lakes and seeing how much bigger they're growing. And part of our initiative on this expedition is to see, well, how much have they deepened since the last time we were here in 2014.
How many times have you been to these places, Uliana?
How many times have I been here?
Yes.
So I first started in 2011, but further up the glacier near Gokyo, where these smaller ponds were growing. And I made my way down here to what's called the Spillway Lake in 2012 when I worked with a team from the UK who had been working here for the past decade that really showed me the ropes of what was changing. And yes, ever since then I've been coming. I lived in Nepal on a Fulbright fellowship for 10 months, so I was able to have my base camp in Nepal, which helped considerably so I could come up to the glacier many times.
So I'm going to have a question for Sonam Sherpa next. But Uliana, why don't you just talk about why you came up with the idea of getting the Sherpa, who obviously are the experts in mountaineering, to also become citizen scientists and work on gathering research for themselves and for visiting scientists like yourself?
Yeah, so the whole idea started in 2011, so it was me and Anfula Sherpa working together. So it wasn't just carrying equipment, but actually working together to set up cameras, weather station, and take measurements. And so I grew the idea for this initiative during the Fulbright year, when I actually had time in country to develop it. And I think it's just really important because they know their landscape. I mean, Lakpanuru here, he lives here, he has his lodge here. The knowledge that we are acquiring from the glacier is important to him. And not only that, involving him, and he loves learning about the technology and the science here.
So I have a question for Sonam Sherpa. How different is this to other expeditions that you've been on? What are you actually doing, and how about piloting these ROVs?
We're having a little bit of a feedback problem that is being brought back that's preventing us from hearing your question. Try it again.
So my question was for Sonam Sherpa, and it was, actually, since we're not using, we had been worried about necessarily using an Iridium phone, so now I'm switching to my headphones, and hopefully that'll cut back your feedback at that end.
A little better, yep.
So the question for Sonam Sherpa was, how is working on Uliana's expedition different from the support you've given to other expeditions in the past?
So it was very fun trip. We had very fun trip. So yesterday and today. So it's Uliana doing since 2011, yeah. So that time was very fun trip. So I have to learn about the glacier, then solar technology, everything.
How does it compare to doing just a tourist expedition?
Yeah, it's the different of the climbing expedition. This expedition is very different. This expedition also about the technology, scientists. We learn from there.
How many Sherpa are supporting the expedition?
We have...
How many Sherpa have ordered?
Five.
Five? Yeah, five.
Five Sherpas.
Uli, why don't you just turn the laptop around and show the other Sherpa on the other side of the room.
Hey, say hello. This is Galu Sherpa. And then Lakpan.
Hello, I'm here, Lakpan Sherpa. I'm the lodge owner from the nearby Kotumba Glacier. And I know the Uliana since 2011. And I am the lodge owner just next to the Kotumba Glacier. And yeah, the Uliana did great research and great job, and it's really hard work too, because sometimes in the winter it's very cold, and she goes to the glacier and early morning and come back, and it's really great job. And also we get a lot of help from the Uliana, because we can learn a lot of things from the glacier, how to move and how it's moving and everything. Thanks.
Okay, I actually have a question for you. Go back, because one
question.
Yeah, I asked Uliana this question, and since you're the lodge owner, perhaps you know the answer. And I have a follow-up question. How's the proper way to pronounce the name of the glacier, and does it have a meaning in Nepali? Looks as if we lost the signal for a little bit there. This is something which happens. So please stand by. We're trying to reconnect. They are doing just that. So in the meantime, until they reconnect, let me just show you some of the things that they get up to. So we are back, I'm glad to say. So I was asking you, does the name of the glacier have a meaning in Nepali?
Oh, does the name of the glacier have any meaning, Nungzumpa? Do you know? I don't know.
Is like a blue.
What?
The Gozumba Glacier is our local call is it's a blue lake.
Okay, we can see that in the wonderful pictures that have come back. Tell me, how does the stability of the natural dams and the possibility of floods affect the local community?
Are you concerned about the flooding from the glacier? What have you learned about flooding?
I learned about the glacier by the Uliana and also the years ago at Jordan, Mass, and Shara, Thompson, and so I was worrying because the behind the glacier is my lodge is behind the glacier, and I was worrying and I was asked to them, what is future for my lodge? The glacier moving is any come or not? And they told me it's not worry. You don't need to worry because this is the high tourist area region, and they make me confident because the glacier is they don't moving here to my lodge is still many years, and so I was confident, and so I learned this, and now I'm confident. I have here my lodge.
That's great. Okay, back to you, Oleana.
Okay. Nice, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. All right, let's bring in Patrick. You are the science tech. You are a guy who loves robots. What kind of tools and toys do you have to play with up on the glacier?
Well, there's several toys that we have up here. Some of them are experimental for this year. We brought a hydrophone up that we're going to be putting in the water and listening to the sounds of the glacier and the water, since it's so acoustically coupled and sound travels through water. We don't know what we're going to get, but it may lead into other expeditions carrying more hydrophone equipment that can triangulate sound. So we might be able to hear popping and cracking and moving, and actually, just like they do with earthquakes, figure out where that sound is coming from. So that's one thing we're playing with, and Ben is going to be a big help for me to that because he has some very outstanding recording equipment. So you might be hearing shortly here. As soon as we get some sounds from the glacier, we'll be posting those up for you. Secondarily was the OpenROV, openrov.org, donated to Science in the Wild, a very nice version 2.8 ROV. Well, Oleana's been after me for a couple of years to put an ROV in the lakes up here, and after my first trip in 2014 and realized that the visibility in most of the lakes up here is about 3 centimeters. So having a camera that you can't even get within the visual bottom was not going to be a good one. But she persisted and managed to get one donated, which convinced me that she's really serious about looking at the bottom of the lake. So we, between Gareth and myself and the donation, we were able to actually take one of their kits, assemble it, which they donated, and we brought it up here, got it working, and we dropped it in one of the non-active lakes, the green lakes, blue lakes, and we actually got some pretty interesting on the bottom. There's actually some algae growing where we didn't see it before, and we'll be posting some more or additional stuff on that into the future. The third item was up here last time, was a thing called an unmanned surface vessel or unmanned sonar vessel, because it's more like a flatbed truck. The reason for the design of this was that getting into these lakes in a rubber raft or a kayak is very dangerous because we have ice walls that are collapsing, creating micro tsunamis. The water temperature is about 1 to 2 degrees Celsius, depending on the time of year in there. Sometimes you can walk on it, but USV wouldn't be much good then. And the USV idea was to be able to remote control this thing, drive it around, collect sonar, side scan sonar data, which gives us a three-dimensional kind of picture of the bottom, which that combined when we bring the data back and run it through software, we can tell hardness of bottom. We can pick out features like rocks and channels or gouges where waters run through. And if we're really, really lucky, we can actually see some of the interductal glacial upflows coming up from the ice below. We can see these black holes, if you will. So we're collecting a lot of data on it. We're covering the lakes that we covered last time. Even though they've changed significantly, we can still do things like quantify the amount of volume of water and things like that. So that's what we're kind of up to with the unmanned surface vessel and technology. Of course, all of this takes power, computers. We're finding cell phones to be very useful for a lot of things. We have about 60 amp hour worth of battery capacity. We have 200 watts worth of solar split into 2 banks of 100 for charging batteries. And for all the techies out there, there ain't a cell phone signal up here, so you got to go down 10, 15 kilometers before you get back to the cell phone world. So, but yeah, we're having a lot of fun up here. We're looking at the future here at the lodge of putting in a full-time, year-round, web-based weather station. Not only so that they can monitor the weather, because the closest station up here was Gokyo, and I think that's been offline for quite a while. 2009. Yeah. So weather up here is just, you can look up Namche Bazaar on the internet, and you can find a weather station. And that's quite a ways down in a whole different environment. So we're looking at what we could do with Lupa and the lodge here, since the internet has changed in the last 2 years. So we're looking at all these technologies. You know, it's going to take money, it's going to take people, it's going to take time to put this together. One of my dreams is to have a mesh Wi-Fi network that covers the Nangzhupa Glacier, so that we can put instruments out there that measure all kinds of things, everything from, you know, sun intensity to things like that. So if there's anybody interested in helping out with, you know, putting a science network together to discover, you know, information about this, you know, very rapidly deteriorating glacier at a very high altitude, let us know. You know, science in the wild. Okay, I'll stop talking now. Back.
Yeah, I got a question for Juliana. One of the things that you did was to repair a weather station that had been damaged in the earthquake and by the harsh weather conditions. And there's some pictures of that on social platforms. Tell us about the work with the weather station and how valuable that is in your research.
Yeah, so we went there today. So it actually really stood up well against the earthquake. There was some slumping that was happening actually because there's a new ice wall forming. So we have the rock pile that was collapsed around it, but actually it stood up in the earthquake. We managed to offload some of the data, but the other one was pretty highly corroded, so that one's going to go back to the lab to try to offload some of that data. But it had been running for 2 years, and it was on Energizer lithium batteries, AA's, because there's no solar panels for these little stations. So I was really impressed that it lasted as long as it did. So our efforts were to tomorrow we're going to actually move the platform. So we have probably
a new base.
Yeah, a new base. Yeah, 6 or 7 of us are going to move this, physically move it, and hook up a new station to it, fresh batteries, and yeah, we're going to hopefully collect data for the coming monsoon, because the interesting things we're measuring are not only air temperatures, humidities, barometric pressure, but also rainfall. How much rain is actually falling? Because can we actually quantify, well, how much are these lake levels changing now? We have an instrument that's at the bottom of the lake, and it's currently stuck at the bottom of the lake. We're going to attempt a recovery. Sonam and I were pulling and pulling on the buoy, and we were almost tipped over the boat. So we're going to attempt a different way, which Patrick has masterminded here, to try to get that instrument out. So we can report on that hopefully tomorrow. Either we got it or we didn't. So. Well.
Okay, so I have a question about the rest of the expedition. Tell us where you're off to next, and also tell us about how you believe Flyover Country, the map, will be able to let anybody anywhere track how you and Patrick and the team make your progress through the rest of the expedition.
Sure, yeah, so for the first question, our next point is we're going to cross over the glacier and make our way to the next village on the western side, the western lateral moraine of the glacier, called Gokyo. There's a few smaller ponds there I've been tracking since 2011. One is very active. It's one of the deepest we've seen at 54 meters, so almost 200 feet deep. We're really curious to see if or by how much that's deepened. So we're going to get the USV out there. It's going to be probably a 2-day effort because it's not very long of a trail, maybe 2 miles, but it's over unstable boulders and there's no trail. So it's gonna take us a while to get the equipment down there. And then beyond that, we're going to go maybe about 10 miles following the moraine up to what's called the 6th Holy Lake, and that's actually the old base camp of Choyoryu, which is the 6th highest peak in the world. And there's a small pocket glacier there that we're going to be climbing, and we're going to be actually measuring the albedo, so the reflections of the snow and ice, and collecting some samples to look for black carbon and dust, and actually hopefully tracking back where that came from. And then as far as flyover country, I mean, that's incredible that they've been able to follow and create a map for us, because we have a lot of interesting geological features here. I mean, just how the mountains were formed in the first place. And it'll be a chance to interact. We wrote a few pieces of interesting points along our journey. And once we're past Gokyo, there's no signal at all as far as Wi-Fi. So we're just going to be using our DeLorme. So that will be really key for them to be able to track us and see where we're going to be as we make our way up to that base camp and the other glacier for the black carbon.
So I've got a couple of questions that came in over the internet. What's your day like? What time do you get up? What do you eat? You've obviously got some great pictures of the Sherpa getting involved in piloting the ROVs. How many hours a day do you work? Where do you sleep? What's the human reality of being on an expedition like this?
Sure, so I could answer as part of that, and then I'll let Patrick chime in. But usually we're up having breakfast at 7 in the morning, but we were probably up at 5 because it's kind of hard to sleep at this altitude. At least it has been for me the past couple days. So we'll eat breakfast, and then we'll be out on the field anywhere from 6 hours to 8 hours. And that we'll split up teams. We'll have one team that'll work, for example, manning the USV and making those measurements, another team working on the weather station. So we split up the tasks pretty nicely, but we still have one more really full day of work down here at the terminus before we move on. As far as food, if you want to...
Food? Well, it's very interesting on food. The diet is a lot of rice, potatoes. They do have a lot of vegetables. Food for the most part, I think, is pretty darn good.
Very good. Lakpa Lodge.
Yeah,
Number one lodge.
Lakpa, you come up here, you probably can't eat as much as they serve. It's very good food.
And we had a cake. We had a welcome cake. It was amazing.
Yeah, wait, totally unexpected on that one. Thank you, Lakpa.
So Patrick, we've got some great pictures and some video of you training the Sherpa to drive the various vehicles on the lake. Is that new this year, or have you done that before?
Well, we've tried to, everything that we do, we try to involve the porters, the Sherpa, the people that are the Sherpa Scientist Initiative. A better awareness of science and technology from the local people is beneficial in both directions. They learn from us, we learn from them. Their local expertise is second to none, and if anybody wants to challenge that, come on up and join us.
So I said I wasn't going to ask Benjamin, who's shooting some video for us and for himself on the expedition. But if you could just pan the laptop over to Benjamin, what's the scenery like?
Can you see
some of the spectacular pictures that you've been able to see and capture?
Yes. Yeah, the landscape is definitely fantastic. It's almost hard to be able to capture everything with photos and videos because you have to make choices. Of course, I bought some lightweight equipment because it's also involved like long walks. But yes, the landscape is definitely, sometimes it's almost like another planet for me, definitely. The surrounding of the glacier is definitely almost like the moon or something like this. That's really my impression.
Tell us about how the 4K camera, which you took to get great pictures, is actually being used for scientific research.
Okay. So how's the 4K being used for science research?
Yeah. Today we with Patrick we collaborated in fact to attach a very portable 4K camera to be able to capture the surrounding of the lake with the remote controlled
USB.
USB.
So like falling rocks and ice.
Yeah, because as in this, believe it or not, the USB started many years ago in Antarctica when we almost lost the icebreaker Palmer due to a cabbing event that occurred, and the ship happened to be a distance away, and the outcome of that could have been the loss of 70, 80 lives in a multi-million-dollar ship. We were lucky. The idea came out of that. How do you get close enough to these glaciers and get the data and information and imagery and all of these things that you need, keep the ship and the people safe? Well, it was a lot of years went by, talked about it, and this is an opportunity, was an opportunity for me to design and build this dream that I had, and it's now working. And it's getting better every iteration. Yes.
Yes. It's beautiful the way this robot's zooming around the lakes.
And nobody's at risk.
We hope that you'll send us back some stills or little video clips, whatever the internet allows, before you head off.
Yep.
So, Oleana, back to you for a last couple of questions.
Sure. Okay.
Because we know it's getting late at night and you have to be up early. So, you've just come back from Baffin Island. You went back to Boulder for a couple of days. What keeps you motivated to travel the world doing science?
What keeps me motivated to keep doing this is, for me, the science, the research I really enjoy, but what I enjoy most is what we're doing right here, which is the training and teaching, introducing people to this landscape. I think it really shows science in a raw fashion. I think Benjamin can speak to that, of how difficult the conditions are working out here. So I think introducing citizens to what it's like to work out here, to understand how we even get our data. You know, so that really is important to me, that anyone who is interested in learning about this can come out here and take part in it and really understand, you know, or everyone appreciates things in different ways. For example, having Ben's expertise as an artist, you know, and he has a different look at it. Patrick as a science technician, you know, so I guess the motivating factor is to keep figuring out how the planet is changing and doing something about it. Yeah.
That's great. Could you just put the laptop lid back a little bit, because it's cutting off the top
Sorry,
of
you're looking at my nose.
That's great. Well, that's perfect. So that's a serious scientific reason, but I believe you're having a rubber duck race sometime in the next few days?
Yes, yeah. Yes, tomorrow. We are having a Glacier Olympics, so everyone's competing. We're going to have a shot put event, a javelin throw. What else did we come up with? A relay race, and then the rubber duck race. And so people from everywhere, actually I've gotten people from New Zealand, from the US, from the UK, have sponsored these rubber ducks. The money sponsored goes to the Sherpa Scientist Initiative and these trainings. And so we're going to race these rubber ducks down a part of the glacier where we found a really great spot with a pretty good current. And we're going to race them tomorrow for medals. We actually brought up gold, silver, and bronze medals, and other Himalayan treats like shawls, Himalayan spices, and salts. Those are all up for grabs. And we're going to have amazing hot mango juice from the lodge and really nice, good snacks.
That's great.
Courtesy of Black Hawk.
So, a lot of fun. Last big question. You're studying black carbon, the way in which the places are changing as the planet changes. Is that the big purpose of the expedition in terms of the scientific return? What's black carbon got to do with what's happening with the Himalayas?
Sure. So I think the scientific return is twofold. So we have what's happening on the lower glacier part. This is all covered in debris and lakes. So we're really interested in how these lakes are growing, deepening, expanding, and potentially presenting flooding hazards, not just here, but across the Himalaya, where we have many of these kinds of similar situations developing. And now we've built technology that we can use that means people are safe and we can make scientific measurements. And then the second half of it is everywhere we have the clean snow and ice, where we have black carbon and dust falling, that's going to accelerate the melting higher up where you should be accumulating, you know, your snow to turn into the ice. So we're studying the whole glacial system, the different parts of it. So the top part, the accumulation zone, black carbon impacts. The lower part, glacial lakes and flooding hazards.
That's great. All right, I think we've kept you up late. This has been really good. Questions can come in. We'll pass them along to Uli and the team. Thank you so much for joining us. You can move the camera around so we can see everybody one last time. We hope to do 2 more Hangouts, but follow us online. And thank you to all the Sherpa. Good luck on the expedition.
Thank you.
And we'll be editing down this video and adding in all the stills and maps and videos that it was not possible to roll in without breaking the internet going to Nepal. But thank you so much. Just want to say namaste. Thank you to everybody in Nepal. And good luck. Thank you. And good night from the US on Memorial Day. Have a great expedition until we talk again.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good morning, actually.
Sorry. Good morning.
Good night. Good morning.
Yeah.
And thanks to everybody who's joined us online or who watches it in the recorded version. We'll be doing 2 more of these versions. And thank you so much. Keep following us on Facebook, on Twitter, and crowdandcloud.org is the place to go to for all things related to citizen science, crowdsourcing, and this fantastic Sherpa Science initiative. Thanks. Happy Memorial Day. Bye-bye from Geoff Haines-Stiles.